Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of, yes, you guessed it this time, is Hearts of Iron 3. I know you didn't even think of what it would be, but yeah, Hearts of Iron 3. And we are still playing Black Ice and Japan. Yeah, okay. Are you getting as tired of hearing it as I am saying it? Yeah, well, not tired of playing it, just tired of sort of saying it at the beginning. Okay, we are... Okay, distraction, who cares? I mean, it's a minor little battle. Okay, we're going to go after, I think, Guadalcanal. We are getting ready to go after whatever this island is. Nehru. We're shifting a division and some naval assets down to here. What is this? Really? We are shifting some more assets. Going to pick up these two divisions. Oh, you should come down here. Going to go out to here to be able to invade. With Nick, hi Nick, how you doing? Has suggested the possibility of invading southern Arabia, partially to be able to fully knock out Yemen and Oman from the war, as well as there is maybe an instead of Africa. Well, not necessarily and not to do Africa, but to sort of go, oh, you do that first. That might get a more of a reaction. I don't know. Another suggestion was South Africa, and I totally take your suggestion seriously, and I'm very more seriously looking at Africa than I was before. But we don't want to take on too much stuff. I want to take out India. And we have, especially if you look up here, we've got a lot of forces here. You can see just a little bit more than what my screen shows. A bunch of these are pretty good, even though there's specialized light infantry. They're pretty good divisions. Maybe not good because like that doesn't have any, except for whatever little anti-tank is in this. You know, it isn't good for dealing with T-34 divisions. But, you know, they're not necessarily bad units. And so, I mean, compared to, no, these are good. Like something like this. Okay, National Colonial Cavalry, that's probably okay if you look at some of the stats. But the rest of this is, you know, just sort of junk. And fine for keeping down partisans and, you know, garrisoning lower priority invasion targets, you know, the militia, you know, putting it somewhere. Yeah, useful, not complaining. But freeing up a bunch of those doesn't mean I'm getting ready to go take on, you know, mainline Soviet or mainline US. Oh, mentioning... one of the videos didn't have a good look at, or they missed it. And I know, looking at the stats, less than 10% of you watch the full video. And yes, the first few seconds are 90+%, just because that's what you're all clicking on. And so watch it how you want to. Watch it how you like to. Yeah, so... how's Barbarossa, and, you know, what's the American AI going to do, and if Barbarossa collapses? Well, so far the Germans are doing okay. They're going to clean up, and the Italians and Hungarians. I don't know why. But we have some Slovaks or something. Don't know why a lot of them like to come up and fight up here. I've seen that before. Bulgaria, instead of sitting on the, you know, front with Russia much nearer. I don't get that. I just don't, quite honestly. It's some sort of AI priority. But I've seen that before. I've seen that, and before I've attributed some of the stuff is that Axis Hungary, oh well, no, let me restate that. AI Axis Hungary is fighting Soviets. Let's help out other AI countries. Who cares about human player country? And some of these people sending forces up here. But, you know, other things I don't know. But once they take out Finland, and I think the biggest problem was supply and other things up here. Once they take that out, it's going to free up all these units, and they don't have to. And they can garrison for partisan, but they don't have to garrison them for invasion. You know, then that will free up, and so we've gotten this. Moscow is here, so they're not that far from Moscow coming swinging around north, so they're doing okay. You know, what happens if Germany collapses here? Game over. And do away, yeah, it sort of kind of is. You know, I don't see the U.S., or I don't see us defeating everybody else on our own. But we're seeing these guys looking like they're retreating, so they're not doing that well. Down here. Could just be that there's a lot of armor down here and things. And so they're just running into it here and they're not running into it up here. I don't know. There's a lot of like these really junky conscript units. Though, of course, here we go. Here we go. Okay. However big numbers of armor and other units here and here and here. Oh, fighting Romanians again. Yes, 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 yes. Oh yeah, we'll let the Romanians and some Italians hold our front line. Okay. Yeah, I know the AI doesn't understand the terms like Stalingrad. You see, okay, these guys looks like a SS armor and a German armor unit here are moving. Looks like they may be moving to go down somewhere down here. This is the big thing that with the AI is they often, oh yeah, we need some units, and let's grab something from over here and send this over here. But you know, we also need some units up here, and let's grab something that's down here and send it up to here. You know, instead of just using stuff more locally. I don't know. Okay, those, they shattered. They're so evenly almost nothing, so they shattered. Went back to some army HQ or something that they were attached to, and are now moving back towards the front. So it looks like we're getting a somewhat historical, multi-year Eastern Front battle. So that's okay, and we're getting a somewhat historical multi-year. Oh, wow. The Soviet attack here is spread out even more. And again, like those two SS and armor divisions, this is maybe their target, maybe where the AI thinks it should go. Like, hey, we've got a problem, so we're gonna pick up a few divisions from up here and send them to here. Yeah, not good. I mean, 2 Marine divisions and whatever naval units, that isn't a real problem. That's just more of a problem with the how will the AI handle it than anything else. And maybe because it's Soviet, the Allies won't intervene there. We're still, of course, waiting for a Operation Torch landings, which will deal with Vichy and whatnot. So yeah, I'm not saying, and we've talked about this before and had a long video on it, I'm not saying the game is instantly over if Germany collapses, but you know, it ain't winnable. And if viewing numbers were super high, yeah, I would fight it out to defending Tokyo. But if numbers aren't high, we'll find a new series to do. And mentioning numbers being high, right now they're low. So, you know, these numbers won't sustain the series if the game is unwinnable. You know, I'm not just purely playing this based entirely on numbers, but I am, because I knew I was going to get lower than Germany, but I also know that if I only do Germany, I'm going to get low numbers too. So it's sort of a mix of viewing numbers and how interesting I think, both for me and I also think for we'll use you to continue. I don't want to keep you in the interior. Yeah, we can swing by and pick up the troops, airborne operations. Ground attack there. You can ground attack there. It's not all about the numbers, but... And I know we've got some dedicated viewers here. And I really appreciate you guys, and it's so wonderful that so many people want to watch this. But I'm not producing something that a reasonably good sized audience wants to watch. What's the point in making it? And so that's something that's always in the back of my mind here. And yes, your comments, the more you comment on a video, the more input you have, the more it tells me that I just didn't get some people that clicked on a link and watched it for 30 seconds or 3 minutes and then have left, but that you care enough to watch it. So sure, just highs and whatnot, and that's cool too. But okay, we just been hit there by Brazilians who are in the war against us. What are we trading with for Argentina, and is it at all particularly useful? Okay, oil. We've got plenty of crude oil, so we're going to stop our Argentina trade. Okay, South Bay of Bengal. And, oh, okay, out here. They've come after my fleet. We have both a bombardment fleet and sort of an immediate escorting fleet, and we have a smaller, well, mostly smaller in that we only have a little bit of carrier operations there that are dealing with British and Commonwealth units. Okay, Blitzkrieg Doctrine. Maybe I should come back to that, I don't know. And high velocity guns have advanced. Very good. Which opens up some more options here. I have a little bit of that, and that's getting ready for India. I think we actually have more of amphibious armor than we do for medium armor. Nope, they're not there yet. Yeah, get on board. Get on board, you're going to India. Rebase, and you're going to be the invasion fleet. And another. The transports aren't there. There they are. Just need to take another base away from the Allies. Yeah, these guys out here. Okay, they've lost all of their organization. You can come back to rebase there for a while. Don't know if the Germans will be able to deal with the Royal Marines. I'm absolutely sure that well, you're in a no order situation. Okay, convoy raiding passive. If you start getting chewed up, go back to port. Okay, night equipment for aircraft. Very good. Is that under? Yes. Okay, that's done. One and done, but really helps out our night once they get upgraded. High density alloys have advanced. I think that's under armor here. Or is it under industry or something? Anti-tank 2. Oh, here. Okay, and it's grayed out. Okay. So that is good. Hedgehog defense, which will help all of our various garrisons a little bit. As well as defend and delay and ambush tactics, generally speaking. So it helps out more than just that, but specifically those are types of divisions it's looking to help. And landing craft flotillas. Okay, yeah, we want to keep increasing the range, so I'll let that go. I know it's a 43 technology. Oh yes, and we have more. Okay, oh, we must have a lot of stuff going. Well, some naval bombers. Okay, so just so that we can look at it, doing some base improvements. They take so long, and I'm going to complete those, but I don't know how much more, because like we are getting ready to operate from Millie, so we'll be done operating before this base is done. And then mostly because that's the last Allied base probably out there, I'm almost not going to need this base anymore. In Entawak, I'm hardly going to need this base. In Kwajalein, so I'm going to sort of be out of there. But we don't know. Of course, we could start losing and that kind of thing. Submarines, and we've learned this. I was reading about Japanese submarines a little bit just a few days ago. The one type of submarine that they did not make, which I've made some and they're all operating in Europe now. No, there's actually, I think, maybe a couple that are still over there, was coastal submarines, short range stuff. Japan made everything but those. And they said the only short range stuff was the mini submarines, which are sort of unique unto themselves in that they're, I think Japan's were all 2-man submarines, but I could be wrong on that one. They weren't over 3, and I don't know if they ever did any. Oh, well, they did do, you can throw in, they did do sort of kamikaze submarines too, that were sort of kamikaze human torpedoes, and those would be just 1 man. But those are sort of obviously a little different. But because they too, like we've talked a lot about the U.S., were very much looking at the Pacific War, and that was the war that they were going to fight. And as I've said, a great majority of the Japanese submarines were focused on fleet type actions. Sometimes not necessarily, I say not necessarily, not that they couldn't, but not necessarily focused on getting in as part of the big fleet battle, but were sort of reconnaissance submarines. Because, hey, look, you realize an aircraft flies over. It goes, vroom, and it's gone. So if you're not there when it flies over, which, you know, pretty high, you got, you know, the bigger aircraft, you got a bunch of guys with binoculars looking at all the different directions. You can sort of kind of normally, but they lived in the Pacific. I live out here too. It's often cloudy. You know, you think of Hawaii. Well, it rains a lot in Hawaii, people. Rains a lot out in the Pacific. That's what a lot of survivors of, you know, vessels being sunk, often, if they knew and could do so, learned that you can, depending on where you are, and if you have some of the sort of right type of gear, you can almost survive out in the ocean from enough rain. Meaning, if you can catch the rain and all those Polynesian travelers and whatnot. I'm not saying they weren't on short rations for water, but if you sort of kind of have a funnel and a, you know, kind of, and it can just be a cloth funnel that funnels, you know, clean fresh water into a, you know, a canteen of some sort, you can almost, you know, depends on things and how many there are and whatnot, but almost sort of survive in some of the regions because of the amount of rain. But it's often short, relatively short bursts. It's out there, it's not normally all day. It's like, rains for half an hour, then it doesn't for 3 hours, and then it rains for half an hour or something. So they were quite aware that as you're flying over, it may be cloudy, and so you get down low below the clouds, so you only see a little bit of the ocean, you know, compared to being a higher altitude to see a fleet. You know, I'm not talking about see a single sub or something. I'm talking about seeing the fleet. So they knew that they needed persistent, you know, staying out there, scouting vessels, and this was before they had radar. You know, they needed scouting vessels way sort of well out in front to be able to, because again, it's big. You don't want to have your fleet miss the enemy fleet, and the enemy comes in and destroys all your bases and your harbors and whatnot and goes away. You want to, you know, meet up. And you want to meet up with more of, you know, all of your vessels coming in and all that kind of stuff. So you want this screen and sort of in depth and whatever screen out there. And submarines are particularly good for that, because if you even have a destroyer and you see enemies, well, before, you know, and they knew carriers were going to be a major part of it, and of course carriers were in their thinking. But even if it isn't a carrier fleet, a lot of light and heavy cruisers as well as battleships have airplanes on board, and at least a lot of them, they've got some bombs. You don't want a single destroyer who might be able to you know, especially if they see something, might be able to even outrun, because, you know, you see them at long distance and you decide to run away. You might be able to outrun some of that, but you might also get air pounded. And if you sort of like, oh, okay, I'm going to destroyer. I see some enemy ships out there. Are there 2 of them, or are there 40 of them? And are they a big troop convoy with a few screening vessels, or is it the big fleet of the battleships? You've got to get in close enough to see it and report. And it becomes, if not suicide for all of the crew, suicide for the vessel, in that, you know, you're gonna, if you get close enough to you get close enough to even a pocket battleship with a destroyer to like report on the fleet and not just the silhouette way off in the distance of a few vessels, you're gonna get blown out of the water, because, you know, if you're a single vessel and there's a fleet of them, because they have long range capability and are able to pound you. So if you get good reports. So, you know, yeah, maybe even most of the guys would survive, and, you know, like once you get sort of shot up enough, everybody, you know, abandon ships, and, you know, if they were going to do that, and, you know, put up the white flag and surrender and try to do the radio report. But that may work, but you've lost a destroyer, and that's the only report you're going to get. Where if you've got a submarine, you can, like, hopefully look through your periscope and see enough. Maybe not, you know, get in close enough and even take a proper torpedo shot, but hang out there and try not to be spotted by their enemy destroyers and make periodic reports. Yes, of course they knew about radio direction finding and whatnot, but if you sort of make a report and dive away and then, you know, try to follow them and whatnot. So they really knew that submarines could really be good reconnaissance type vessels. And of course the Japanese also did a lot of submarines with a single aircraft. They just did the 2 that they actually completed. I think they were building 4, but 2 were completed. The I-400 series that had 3 aircraft. But most just had 1 aircraft, and they take quite a while to, you know, relatively speaking, to assemble the aircraft and launch it. Also take quite a while to disassemble the aircraft. But I think to a point they were sort of thinking that, yeah, if you've spotted the big fleet and you've reported, you know, yeah, if you can get away and fly back to the submarine, great. But if there's like a lot of maybe people following you, you know, other aircraft, you can just sort of maybe land and hop out and jump in that submarine and dive away. You know, because like if you're like, you know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes ahead of the enemy, and just abandon the aircraft and just go, yeah, no problem. The cost of the aircraft for the report of the fleet, yeah, that's worth it, kind of thing, you know, and get out of there. And even if, because they're often 2-man aircraft, but even if you lose 2 men, it's sort of kind of worth it. You don't want to hazard the whole submarine in that. So yeah, so they had a lot of those kind of things set up for reconnaissance. So they weren't necessarily, you know, well, I say they would love to get in there and shoot a bunch of torpedoes and sink a bunch of battleships. And that is even part of their thinking in some cases with some of the stuff, is sort of attriting the enemy by damaging them. I read this was part of some of the stuff that I was reading, in where oh, I forget the carrier. It was a reasonably good sized carrier. A Japanese submarine spots it. This was one of their sort of lucky things, to get in and spot it with the submarine and see the carrier and put out a spray of torpedoes. 3 torpedoes, and this is a good condition carrier. 3 torpedoes hit the carrier and destroy the carrier. It's just burning of flames. It's done. They try fighting it and they just can't. I think it's either 1 or 2 other torpedoes from the spray of torpedoes, you know, put out. They're all fired at the carrier because that's what they want to hit. But you're not very assured of doing. The carrier was actually out on anti-submarine patrol at the time, but they didn't catch this submarine. So they sink the carrier, they hit the destroyer and sink a destroyer with it, with 1 or 2, and they hit one of the U.S. battleships and put a 30-foot hole in it. Maybe they didn't. I don't know if they sunk the destroyer. I think they did. But it was, if I remember correctly, it wasn't ever, even if it wasn't sunk, it was never used again. 30-foot hole in the battleship. And the battleship was just fine. It could keep up with its operational speed. It obviously had a big hole in it. And it could still operate. But at some point in the near future, it took about a month to repair the hull. So it did go back into dry dock to get the hull repaired. But yeah, so just like, and I saw a picture of it, and it was a huge 30-foot hole, 30 foot wide, and however many, 10 plus feet tall, kind of thing. Big old hole in the side of the battleship, below the waterline, obviously. So yeah, it's like, we took a torpedo. Yeah, we don't like it. It presumably got people killed, because presumably there were people in the ship spaces behind where the impact was. So yeah, it killed some people, but it's like, yeah, we're a battleship. We can keep fighting. You know, yeah, at some point we, you know, and once they were sort of done with that sort of immediate mission, it does go back because the U.S. weren't in a highly stressed position at the time. This was, I don't know, I'm guessing 43 right now. I know they said, but I forget when this happens. You know, it wasn't in a highly stressed time that we need every ship that we can operate now. It was just like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm done with that. Okay, you go home and get fixed up and come back. But so you can see that that was sort of the idea behind the Japanese submarines, is that you would get the big, massive American fleet moving towards Japan. You have all of these screens out in front of them. Some of them would see and try to report, maybe very much if they got into it, because you got to realize with a submarine, you can look out and see and go, there's a battleship, and go, no way can I torpedo it, because my torpedoes, even if theoretically, because they weren't, the submarines did not use the famous long lance torpedo. That was just for the destroyers. They were just on that, but they had a similar torpedo that had good range, but you go, that's just too far away, and even if I were to shoot, I'm probably going to miss, just because at this kind of range and variations of zigzag and whatever, I ain't gonna hit it, so I can't shoot it. And I'm also underwater, and I go much, much slower than it does underwater, so I can't do anything to that battleship or that, you know, group of ships, because they're sort of like going away from me, or going parallel and somewhat away from me and too far away. And so I can't do anything. Now, what you can do is at night surface and, you know, spin up your diesel or gasoline engines and drive fast and try to catch up and try to, you're talking about an 11-knot transport fleet. I say that because that was the high-end speed for a Liberty ship. So if your invasion fleet includes Liberty ships, which are basically, you know, just cargo, and so your troop ships normally go a little bit faster, but your landing ships were also sort of like 11 a knot. Some of them get a little higher, 15 knots. But those are slow enough that most submarines could surface and swing wide around them at night, and then like the Germans often did it in the North Atlantic, and get well enough in front of them either at night, or which the Germans preferred, or in the day, and then you know where they're generally heading with their zigzag pattern, and be in front of them, and then get the shot, you know, and shoot it off. But if you're talking about a battle fleet that's, say, moving at, say, 20 knots or more, and it's not just, it's moving that speed at night, it's moving that speed at day, you just got no real hope of doing a wide swing around and getting in position kind of thing. But you do have a good hope of maybe shadowing it and staying behind it, never really fully catching it to attack, but every night or whatever coming up and giving radio reports of, hey, they're here, they're here, they're here, you know, and we're now, you know, we're here and they're in front of me kind of thing, you know, and the Americans or whatever could send destroyers to try to hunt them, but, you know, giving reports on where the enemy was. So it's always going to be some level of luck until you sort of like, oh, they're here, they're here, they're here, and then you could vector in other submarines to get in their path and attrit them before they ever get to the main enemy fleet. So, you know, it was hoped that, I don't know, a percentage of them of the real combatants weren't really necessarily going to be sunk, but they'd have 30-foot holes in them, and not, you know, maybe hit and flooded a magazine, so one of the turrets is out of action because all of its ammo is flooded, or whatever it might be, you know, make them less combat capable once they come into the fight. And especially if you've slowed up a percentage of the fleet and you're going into battle, even if it's just like 20% of your main like battleship fleet is like, say, 10 knots slower because it has big gaping holes in it, you're gonna have to move the whole fleet at that slower speed, because you don't want to break up the coordinated fire, and so you're that much less maneuverable, so you're doing that much better. So that was sort of Japan's whole plan of operation, was to use these submarines to affect the fleet battle. And sure, yes, if, like I say, if they get in close, send torpedoes in, but mostly it was scouting. as what they really thought was going to happen for most of the vessels, and most of the scouting was going to be silence, because silence means nobody here, so we know where they all are, and you know where their patrol areas are, and no, they're not there, you know, and that's as good as, almost as good as information as knowing where they are is to knowing where they're not. So that's what Japan was focused on, unlike the Americans, who were planning a Pacific campaign, but were planning their submarines to do commerce raiding, because they had fought the Germans a bit in World War I, knowing that, and also watching the British fight the Germans in World War I. And of course, in the early parts of World War II, reinforces it, but they build a lot of their vessels and design their vessels before the start of the Pacific War, you know, or before the start of World War II at all. So they are thinking that we're going to be sending out submarines from places like Hawaii into the waters. Sure, we'll look for enemy fleets, but we're also out there just to sink transports. You know, a troop transport, a cargo transport, particularly fuel tankers, because hey, fuel tankers bringing aviation fuel out to an island air base gets sunk. The aircraft can't operate, you know, of any meaningful amount. And so, yeah, that's what the U.S. is looking. Their strategy for their submarines was to keep the Japanese from using the seas to support their vessels, because they also knew those tankers, you sink them if they're carrying a fuel for surface fleets, keeps the surface fleets from moving around. They're stuck in port, or they have limited range, and if you start to zigzag, you're using up more fuel, so you have limited operations. So even if you still can operate, you operate less and less speedy, because you have to operate at fuel efficient speeds instead of knowing that there's, you know, we're going to rendezvous with tankers, or we're going near islands which have, you know, stored up fuel on them that the tankers have been delivering, and so we can, you know, burn fuel fast and get it replaced. No, if you know that there's no fuel around, you've got to conserve fuel and go at economical speeds, and whether you zigzag or not, and all kinds of things. So that's the fundamental differences of how these two nations want to fight with their submarines. And of course, the Americans are right, just like the Germans were right, just like the British knew that that's how you fight with submarines, and they use their submarines obviously in doing that kind of stuff in the Mediterranean, mostly fighting against the Italians, because the Germans weren't at sea that much. I mean, they were off Norway and whatnot, but it wasn't the big thing there. Partially because you can get in along the coast enough with the shipping that submarines become a bit of a liability, and that if you know that they're out there, you can put a lot of air power over them, and it's, you know, you concentrate your dealings with them. But yeah, so yeah, it was sort of interesting. I know another long talk, but hopefully it was interesting. Okay, so we've got some submarines coming. We're going to use those, and we're going to use those long-range submarines to hit the California coast. We're replacing a lot of our lost CAGs. Yeah, I think enough of the lost CAGs. These. I'm looking here. Okay. Yeah, because if we're in India, if we take India, I'm also like some of those Rubal and Guadalcanal right now. They have good divisions on them, you know, ones that we want to use offensively somewhere. It's just so much better to create a few more of these things to free those up. And so we're going to continue with... I like using rocket artillery as Germany, because it's cheaper and is very effective against grounded targets, and it's only fuel or only supply expensive really once you're in combat, so it really burns up that. But if most of the time you're just sitting in garrison, it doesn't really matter much. But we didn't go down the rocket path, and I'm not upset that I didn't, but leadership hasn't been nearly the problem that I thought it was going to be. we've been able to do a lot more, and we're still maintaining 110 plus on officers, and we have, well, we're out of spies, but we have enough diplomatic. Okay. And okay, now that, and the other thing we are going to do is more destroyers. Six. There we go. 6 more destroyers. We've got some destroyer escorts here. They're building faster. Those are much more of an American thing, I think. I figured partially just faster. Yeah, get them out. You know, get them done. Get them at sea, and as well as a little bit cheaper too. The kind of, we need vessels now, today, better than good vessels tomorrow, though we do need good vessels. We'll do a couple of light cruisers as well. Okay. And we have some more. Okay, and a point, yeah, let's do that. Okay, we've got the Exeter. I understand, which is one thing that I didn't know before, a sort of a problem with the pocket battleship, and that they sort of rush in because they're fast into battle against the enemies, so they're not necessarily supported as well as you know, by the heavy cruisers and things. So I'm still not upset that I got them, because I think they've been well useful, and they are cheap. Okay, we've had a shattering. Guessing it was. No, not there. Here. Okay, because it's not attached to headquarters. And is that one of these units? Yeah. Okay, that's ill-advised, so stop that. And there's a. Well, we gotta find which one it is. That one. Stop. Yeah, major defeat. Okay. That was ill-advised attack. I thought we could push our way through it. And now they're counterattacking, but that is an ill-advised attack. Germany has annexed Finland in forced conquer, so they just gobbled up all the rest of that unit, and now get to race for taking this stuff down. Okay, you guys march around here. You guys come back to here. And so back on this topic of what to do here. So my plans, and we might as well get some of these ports. Madras's should be reasonable good size. It was a major trading port, though early on it was a pure beach trading port, and actually high surf beach trading port. So you can imagine, they talk about, I've written descriptions, so I don't quite know how big the waves were, but they're described as big. And this is sort of 18th century, when some of the Madras was one of the 3 main British ports in trading ports in India. And so you have the ships sitting offshore out at sea, not like in a harbor. You load the cargo onto surf boats, big flat bottom boats, that would then ride the surf in and up onto the beach to then take the cargo and the people up off the beach into it, which I find incredibly stupid. I presume by some point here they've have a proper port, but I don't know. Pondokari, that was of course the French one. The other major was Bombay and Calcutta. Calcutta is the opposite of a high surf port. It was I don't know, maybe 30 miles or more upriver, not just in one of the sort of I don't know what tidal bays or whatever you want to call it, but actually up a river flow. So it was well inland, as we can see here. It was very well inland, and yeah, I've read most of it about the 18th century. So don't know. This I know is a small port, Cochin, from invading. So we need to get a hold of some ports, but Pondicherry is where we want to invade, because there may be a French garrison there, but that is it. Where we know that there is a, well, we presume there's a Madras garrison, and if we invade the French garrison, France will care, but Britain sort of ignores it to some degree, meaning it doesn't start reacting very much, so that we can get ashore and sort of get ready to move rapidly without hopefully much in the way of problems. Oh, let's shift over to some air power. Yeah. Which one of these bases is bigger? 2, 10. Yeah, they're both close enough. So we'll come over here with that, and I think we have maybe some more. Some fighters, yes. They're supposed to be protecting the capital from American or other bombers, but I don't think we're going to have a Doolittle raid or something like that anytime soon, because we've been taking away their... You know, if they were still operating out of some of these bases, they could theoretically invade us. I don't think the U.S. has anything that can invade principal mainland Japan from here. You might be able to get to here, and then from there they could get to other places. Okay. So we will pay attention, obviously, but it's, I think removing Tokyo's air cover I don't think is a serious problem. And are we here now? Yes, get on board. That's the one. Okay. Now, fleet, come down into here. I don't know what's... Yeah, I'm sort of knowing that we have these guys here and are going to deal with and attract Allied attention. Oh, okay. Okay, destroyer flotilla, good. Well, their destroyer gets out. These guys are moving super slow because they don't have any supply. I'm sending the supply to here, and that is okay. Okay, twin engine airframe research, nice, grayed out, and light armor designs. That we do have a bunch of. Like I say, unlike the medium. Yeah, we'll do that. Oh, we still have a little bit more. almost there. If there's any more, I'd rebase them to here and then send them out again. So they'd have supply. Okay. You guys get to move forward now that they're leaving. Okay. It looks like there's 3 submarines there, and 2 of them are ours. Oh, that's a good, decent enough submarine, so we'll patrol submarine, anti-submarine force. Got destroyers as well as aircraft that are supposed to be able to handle that. But we did just talk about a carrier getting taken out. Okay, civil defense. Most of these are 43, and well, we're in October, so yeah, let's push through with that. We want to compete and win against enemy air. Okay, well, hey, you can support the attack. No, don't move, don't go there. You can support that attack. There we go. Okay. Air intercept anything that flies out here. You, naval strike just that one province, because these guys are going to invade here, Pondicherry. And yeah, there may be somebody else around here, but this is where we're gonna sit and see. Hey, coastal battleship, Dutch, that made it out. We've seen him before, and the HMS St. Andrew, and a couple of, looks like French submarines still operating out here. They're going to Madras, I think. Oh no, well, the French are going to Pondicherry. That would make sense. Like I said, only the French really care about that. So the Suda Strait, we took out their submarine. Good. Now, see what we got, all of these guys here. Okay, let's look for revolt risk. Okay, most of this stuff is green, but this isn't. So come up here. Yeah, just... We've been making the good choices to keep revolts down, but still, even with that, we don't have enough around. We will start to get... problems. Okay, no. As somebody says, you really need to micromanage this, and they're absolutely right. It's just trying to deal with so many things at once, and trying to talk to you guys. As you can tell, I love it. I talk too much, but okay, we're here. We're not seeing anything on shore. But we're also not seeing anything in port in the idea of a real fleet. But so yeah, go ashore, invade. So yeah, we can take out the relatively weak garrison there. Okay, airborne engineers. These things do go fast, so we'll jump over to airborne artillery improvements. Just get through that. Pondicherry. Okay. Yeah, well, no. Actually, don't worry about coming back. I mean, you are coming back. Good. You can all get on board. Go to Pondicherry. Transport. And we'll wait for the day to happen. We've taken it. Have we done that enough? I don't know. Nope. Okay, now. Yeah, there we are. Now we can supply into that. And yes, it's just a single level port. And currently damaged. Well, I guess I sort of set these up to be a big stack. So let's drop those in together, but I'm also waiting before sending them out, waiting to get a, yeah, there we go, see, worked right. I'm not Ozawa, just nobody for now, because we're going to attach you somewhere else. I don't want to accidentally lose you somehow. Attach a flying boat to it for better submarine. Oh, they're here. There we are. They're actually out there going after those submarines. Good thing, because we only have a couple of destroyers escorting there. Oh, we got the Victorious carrier. HMS Victorious is sunk out here. Okay. Okay. Oh, there's a fair number. Okay, so I was mainly looking here. So you guys come back to port here. We need to drive them out and away, but good thing we got that. Oh, and I was also asked, and I meant to look earlier, and I was going to, I think it was the Yamato sink anything in that last big fracas, and basically a Tennessee battleship and some Sims class destroyers. I think it was the Yamato I was asked at. Okay, we're still pushing. I thought for a second we had taken it. No, we're still pushing and going for Manila. So we're doing that very well. Now I moved in some light bombers. Do we? Yeah, they got anti-aircraft. We're doing well enough. I don't think we need to use that. How the hell are these coming? Oh, they zoomed all the way. I don't know. They're going to attack from that province, move to that province, protect them. Okay. Convoy spotted out here, and deep battle doctrine. I'm definitely going to come back for more of these. Well, that's 44, so that's a long time away. But the 43s, I've sort of been torn because they would be helpful and they're not too far in advance. And it's useful and it's good, but partly I'm looking at, because we're getting ready to use my motorized and armor units a bit more in India, so figure pushing on that, as well as just generally making sure that we're doing so many naval battles and that kind of thing, making sure all those tactics and techs and whatnot are all the best. Okay. We can detach you. I don't know if we'll be starting. We should be starting a new command here. Okay. But yes. Okay. Go. Hopefully you're going to go fast. You're a little bit slower. You're fast too. Okay. Maybe not as fast. No, you gotta come through that one. Okay. Just in case we have to fight for Madras. Not that quick. Got horse transport and whatnot, but I'm sort of surprised. Well, maybe not surprised as a Japanese. Motorized Corps HQ. You're going a bit more for occupation duties, and you're back. And you can pick you up, and you now, and take you there. Yes, we are overrunning the supply, but we're not basing any aircraft or ships out of there, so that will help. And we're going to get more bases soon. Okay, so there's still defending. Okay, yeah, come into the jungle. Oh, they're already retreating. No, okay, attack here. Yeah, these guys will just then occupy. And you guys can do ground support there. Oh, and if you guys are interested, coming up Saturday, the 15th, we'll be doing a multiplayer live stream of Black Ice Hearts of Iron 4. I will be streaming it, and Remco will be streaming the Axis side. I'll be streaming from the Allied side. Oh, no. Rebase to here. You have fuel, so you can get there faster. And we'll pick up the Marine Division and go after another island. Black Ice people have been very kind and very good to me, I will say that. Not that we wouldn't expect that to happen or anything, it just sort of more is that they have been, and that is nice. And there's really two Black Ice teams, which both the Black Ice 3 team and Black Ice 4, I guess, for Hearts of Iron 3 and Hearts of Iron 4. Okay, and I think we're going to end the episode here. I want to thank you all for watching me. If you've got this far, thank you for liking the videos. If you haven't already, of course, please subscribe. And I really love hearing from you, even if it's telling me I'm wrong about whether it's a history thing or other things. Better to get the right information out than anything else. So please post questions, comments, corrections, whatever. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.